sir.
Okay. So in the last class, we have discussed about the ideal op amp, its internal structure. Followed by that, there are four different types of differential amplifiers or different combinations of differential amplifiers. So we'll just look into that. Even this was done in the last class.
No, sir.
Okay. So there, the same, the internal structure diagram, what we discussed, that will be considered here. And we were telling some as while discussing the block diagram, the this dual input, unbalanced output, all those things we were telling for some blocks. On what basis we are telling that, we'll understand now. This is V1, this is V2. So this is once this question was asked in exam, RC, and this is RE. So this is the base, emitter, collector. Since this resistance is connected to the collector part, it is known as collector resistance. Since this is connected to the emitter part, the arrow mark indicates the emitter part of the transistor. So it is known as emitter resistance. There are four types of combinations, namely single input, unbalanced output, differential amplifier. Same way, single input, balanced output, differential amplifier. Next is dual input, unbalanced output, differential amplifier. Again, dual input, balanced output, differential amplifier. These are the four types of combinations which we are having. So here we are going to just we are trying to understand on what basis this combination is being done, or on in which situation does a circuit belongs to a particular type of differential amplifier. As we know, we take the output between these two ends and input is given to the base V1, V2. Single input, unbalanced output means, single input means we are going to give input to only one terminal and other terminal is grounded. Here V1 is given as input, and for this we are grounded. For the other base we have grounded it. So this indicates this circuit is getting only single input. If both V1 and V2 are given, then we tell it is having two inputs. But here, since it is given with only V1 and V2 is grounded, it is single input. Unbalanced output means instead of taking the output between two terminals, what we do is we just take the output across one of the transistor. That is unbalanced output. If you take the output between the two transistors, the collector of the transistors, then it is called as balanced output. If you take the output across a single transistor, then it is unbalanced. And if you are going to give input to both the terminals, then it is called dual input. Okay. Now, can anyone tell me what kind of differential amplifier this is?
Single input and balanced output.
Very good. It is single input balanced output because one of the input terminals is given input and output is taken across both the transistors. Now,
Dual input
Dual input balanced
output.
output.
yes. Now,
Dual input and
Dual
balanced.
input unbalanced output.
yes. Okay. Now,
Single input
Single
unbalanced.
input unbalanced output.
output. Okay. This is how four different combinations of differential amplifier we are having. So if they ask in the exam, what are the different combinations of differential amplifier, then list out all these four, then write four diagrams, four circuit diagrams. That is the answer for it. Okay. So this is about the combination of the differential amplifiers. After this, we'll move on to the important part, that is properties of op amp. So this is very, very important from the point of examination. So they'll be asking you list the ideal characteristics of an op amp or list the practical characteristics of an op amp, all those things. So basically properties are classified into two things. One is ideal and other one is practical. Ideal case is a theoretical case which we consider. Practical case is real time case which we are going to consider to define the parameters. See, like diode, we were telling, no, if you are going to a diode or a Zener diode, we were telling there will be a data sheet provided for a particular diode, and it is going to tell its characteristics at what is the maximum current, what is the minimum current, what is the resistance offered by this. All those things are given. In the same way, when you are going to purchase a particular op amp, during that time a data sheet will be available for that. In that data sheet these characteristics will be mentioned, and they are going to tell how much resistance it is going to offer at the input terminal and how much resistance it is going to offer at the output terminal. All those things will be discussed in that data sheet. So based on that data sheet only, you can choose whether that particular op amp is suitable for your requirement or not. And also all those values whatever is mentioned in the data sheet, that we consider while designing any circuit. So to discuss the properties of an op amp, the properties or the characteristics are the general characteristics we are discussing, but the values whatever we are proposing here, those values belongs to a class of IC mu A741. So we are in practical characteristics, we'll tell that some particular some input resistance is 1 mega ohm. So that means this is the resistance which is offered in mu A741 IC. This is the name of the number of the IC. Mu A741 is the IC number. Why we have taken mu A741 IC only? Because it is a widely used IC, and by using this IC we can do any type of application. By just using this IC we can do any type of applications, and based on this only you will do some experiment in third semester lab. So this mu A741 IC is considered here for listing out the characteristics. First characteristics is infinite input impedance. Infinite input impedance, ideally telling the total the resistance offered by the op amp is infinity. That means this is the op amp we are having. So here Here, whatever the resistance or the impedance which is offered is infinity. Okay, so here the resistance offered for the input current is infinity. Can anyone tell me why it is infinity? Just a common sense question, actually. This is, if you remember that uh, the ideal op-amp internal structure, you can answer this. And if you know NPN transistors, say all of you know what is NPN, PNP transistors and all? What is basic things? At least those who know can tell yes or no. No, I'm just asking, have you studied that NPN, PNP transistor in your class 11 or class 12th or in your high school?
Yes, sir. NPN we have studied.
Okay. And now my question is, why input resistance is infinite, considered to be infinite? There is some reason for that. So you can openly discuss. If your answer is wrong, also no issue. I will scold if you don't open your mouth. I will never scold if you tell wrong answer. So we are having NPN and we are having three terminals, right? Emitter, base, collector. Can you tell me the doping concentration of these? How is emitter doped? Whether it is heavily doped or lightly doped?
Emitter is heavily doped.
Hmm.
Collector is moderately doped, and base is the doping density is less compared to the other two.
Yes. So here emitter, base, collector we are having. So this is heavily doped, this is lightly doped, this is moderately doped. And current, the emitter current will be in terms of milliampere, base current will be in terms of microampere, collector current will be in terms of milliampere. Okay. Can you just tell me among these three cases where there is high resistance?
Base.
Base. Yes, correct. Can you tell me why it might be?
The amount of current received in the base is less compared to the other two.
Yes, it is in microamperes, right? So if it is in microampere means the base current is in terms of microampere means obviously it is understood when current is less, resistance will be automatically more. Coming back to this op amp, what are these terminals? Where these terminals are going to?
Base only.
Base only, right? So when they are going to base, at least now, can you answer? I gave
Current
the
transfer
hint.
will be very less.
Hmm.
So resistance has got infinite value.
Yes.
It consumes no current.
Hmm. As from our understanding of NPN transistor, we know that it is having only microamperes of current. So when it is having microamperes of current, resistance will be more. And the input terminals, what we are considering in op amp is also base terminal only. Obviously, it offers high resistance. Ideally, we consider it is going to take infinite, it is going to have infinite resistance. But practically, it will be in terms of some mega ohm, some amount of current will be flowing. But ideally speaking, it is there'll be no current drawn from the voltage source to the input terminals of the op amp. So it is told to be infinity. Next is zero output impedance. See, output is always collected across the collector. So obviously the resistance offered by the output side will be less. Here ideally we tell it is zero, but practically it will not be zero. It will be in terms of some 100 ohm, 200 ohm, like that. Next is the voltage gain. So voltage gain is infinite. So gain is always given by output by input. If you consider a differential amplifier, so differential amplifier means it is going to take the inputs from both the terminals and it is going to take the difference and add some gain to it. So it will be V2 minus V1. This is termed as VD. So we take this as VD. So the ratio of output voltage by input voltage gives you gain. According to the op amp, it is told, ideal case of op amp, it is told it is going to have a gain of infinity. Okay, so infinity in the sense, can you tell me when this will be, in which case does the gain can be infinity? Simple mathematical reasoning.
When VD is 0.
When VD is 0, right? When VD is 0, the gain is infinity. See, practically, is it possible to have that much gain when you are not giving input only? Output, can it be infinity without giving any input? So that's why it is not possible. That's why we consider it as ideal case. Ideally, it is told op amp is having infinite gain. Next, after that, bandwidth. So bandwidth is infinite. So basically bandwidth means it is a range of frequency over which the output is maximum. For this, for better understanding, there is a graph. We call it as a frequency response curve, which is plotted gain versus frequency. Gain versus frequency. We'll get a graph like this. Gain means what? What is the formula for gain? What is the formula for gain?
VO by VD.
VO by VD, right? By changing the frequency for different frequencies, the gain will also change and you'll be getting this curve. Okay, so usually in practical case, they'll plot the curve and what they'll do is they are going to, you can observe that from this point to this point, that is from this frequency to this frequency, the gain is maximum. After that, the gain is lesser. It is decreasing and here it is still increasing. Okay, so this range of frequency between these 2 points, whatever we are getting, they'll take the difference of those two. If you take this as F2 and this is F1, they'll take F2 minus F1. So that is the bandwidth. That's why I told it is a range of frequency over which output is maximum. Gain is maximum means what? Output will be maximum. See, A is directly proportional to V0. When V0 is maximum, then only the gain will be maximum. They are telling that it is infinite. Bandwidth is infinite in the sense, so starting from 0, so from 1 hertz also, it is maximum, fully maximum, always it is maximum. But practically, we are getting the curve like this. From a certain frequency, the gain will be maximum, and again when it crosses certain frequency, the gain starts reducing. Okay, That's why ideally we tell it is infinite, but practically it is not infinite. It has some range. When you transmit the signal over that frequency range, then only the signal can reach the destination successfully. These things are even this is the way how they are going to calculate the bandwidth, and they'll fix that bandwidth, and they'll start transmitting the signal in that particular range of frequency only. So that's why they tell we need more bandwidth. More bandwidth in the sense, if you have more frequency range, you can transmit more signal. If the bandwidth is less, you'll get less number of frequencies. When you get less number of frequencies, the amount of information which you can transmit will be less. That's why what the telecom operators, what they'll do is, uh, from the center where the peak value, this is the curve they have got. From the center, just tell me at this point, is the frequency maximum, the gain is maximum?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what they'll do is, to allocate more number of customers, they will just reduce by 3 decibel. The gain is represented in terms of dB, decibels. Then they are going to just go 3 decibel downwards, and after that they'll consider the frequency. So you can see that now the bandwidth is increased. So what is happening here is they are compromising with the quality, because gain is reduced means they are compromising with the quality. Quality is reduced and more number of frequencies are obtained, such that they can accommodate more number of customers. See, that's why in a few of the telecom, few of the network operators, there'll be too many users, but the quality will not be there. Everyone can access, but the quality will not be there, and you can observe in few operators that the crosstalk will be more, but in few operators this crosstalk will not be there, because they are going to give more preference to the quality than accommodating more customers. Few years back when Jio was launched, so everyone were given with free SIM, with free data, everything. So during that time, this happened. So they started compromising with the quality, and they started reducing. Instead of 3 dB, they went still down. So during that time, the gain was very less and the bandwidth was more. More number of customers were accommodated, but the call success or the connectivity was very poor. The quality was very less. So when we call, it was going to someone, or many were interconnected. So like that, it happens. Okay, so that's why bandwidth is very, very important. All these things I just told for your better understanding. Now, next point is the perfect balance. See what happens when a difference amplifier is considered, when both the inputs are given with same voltage, what will happen to the output? The formula for difference amplifier is V2 minus V1 into A. A is gain. I'm going to give V1 is equal to V2. What will happen to the output?
0, sir.
Zero. So in ideal case, they tell when same voltage is applied to both the terminals, the output will be 0. But practically, both, even though you give V1, V2 with same values, and in the power supply display it will be showing same values, but there will be some mismatch between the V1 and V2. Because of that, even though they are same output, there will be some amount of output which is flowing. That we call it as output offset voltage, that we discuss later. Okay, so perfect balance means when equal voltages are applied to input terminals of op amp, then the output voltage is 0. Next is CMRR. CMRR means common mode rejection ratio. Common mode rejection ratio. So before understanding what is CMRR, let us first understand what is common mode. See, both the terminals are connected to a power supply, and V1 might be different and V2 might be different, but the voltage is obtained from same power supply. V1 and V2 are obtained from same power supply. Even though terminals are different, the supply source is same. So if there is some unwanted signal which is generated in the power supply because of any mismatch in the internal circuitry, or because of any fluctuation that is happening in the power supply, because of that, some common noise will be added to both the terminals, V1 and V2. That noise will be common to both V1 and V2. Such common noise signal, which is added to both the terminals, is known as common mode signal. This common mode signal is the unwanted signal. See, any signal which is not required, that becomes unwanted, or a noise signal. We consider it as a noise. Which is not required means it is a noise. So, the ability of an op-amp to reject such a common mode signal is known as common mode rejection ratio. Okay, in short, we define it as AD by AC. That is, it is the ratio of differential gain by common mode gain. So differential gain means the gain which we are obtained by just considering this one, V1 and V2 difference, and whatever we are obtaining the gain, that gain is AD, differential gain. AC means common mode gain. So this is the gain which you are obtained because of addition of that unwanted signals to both the terminals V1 and V2. So in the input voltages of differential amplifier or differential gain is considered to be V2 minus V1, but for common mode gain, the voltage is considered to be V1 plus V2 by 2. Here to find, see, A is equal to V2 minus V1 by V0. We are having, sorry, just the reverse, V0 by V2 minus V1. So A is equal to V0 by V2 minus V1. So this gives the input, and the gain which we are obtained in this way is differential gain. But for the common mode gain AC, we are going to give V0 by Vc. So Vc is obtained by V1 plus V2 by 2. So since the noise is commonly added to both the terminals, we are going to take the average of that, and that will be the common mode voltage which is added up. And the output voltage equation becomes V2 minus V1 into AD plus Vc into AC. Okay, actually the required thing is only this one. This is not required. Now, common mode rejection ratio means it is the ability of an op-amp to reject this unwanted signal, unwanted noise is known as common mode rejection ratio. So the common mode rejection ratio, as a definition, it is defined as ratio of differential gain to the common mode gain. So however the op-amp is going to reject the extra signal, the extra noisy signal, we tell that op-amp is good. So CMRR, ideally its value is infinity. Infinity means it is going to have that much capability. It is not going to allow any common mode signals to get added up to the op-amp. But practically it is not like that. After this, the next is slew rate. will have an op amp. This is the input side and this is the output side. Slew rate tells that whenever you start varying the input, instantly without any delay, the output is going to vary. Okay, when you start increasing the input, suddenly the output will also increase. That much fast it will increase. That much fastly the device is going to respond. So slew rate is said to be infinity, considering that the rate of change of output with respect to the input will be done simultaneously. But practically that cannot happen because the device itself takes some time. Some time in the sense it will not take hours together. It will just take microseconds of time. That is negligible for us. Microseconds, even we cannot observe it on the CRO, cathode ray oscilloscope. But when it comes to device level, that microseconds is too high. Okay, so slew rate is going to tell about the change in the output simultaneously with respect to change in the input. So how fastly it can respond is indicated by slew rate. So usually this will be microvolt per second. So in this way we are going to represent this, or we can, for microvolt per second we can, or we can also tell, so 0.5 volt per microsecond. So we can define in both the ways. So 0.5, for 0.5 volt variation, it needs 1 microsecond time to change over. If you are changing 0.5 volt at the input, if you want that 0.5 volt to reflect in the output, it takes 1 microsecond. So if there is 1 volt variation at the input, if you want that reflection at the output, it takes 2 microseconds. That is what practically happens. But ideally, it is told to be infinity. Infinity means as soon as you start, suddenly output is also going to change. That much fastly the device is going to respond. After that, the last one is PSRR. It is power supply rejection ratio. So power supply rejection ratio, it is defined as ratio of change in input offset voltage to the change in one of the power supply, keeping other power supply constant. So delta VIOS by delta VEE divided by VCC. See, taking this op amp, this is plus VCC and minus VEE we have taken. These are the two power supplies which we are going to take for the op amp. If there is any fluctuation in plus VCC, they're telling if there is any fluctuation in plus VCC, there will be some changes or unwanted signal which is getting added up at the input terminals. VIOS means input offset voltage. Input offset, whenever the word offset comes, that means it is the unwanted voltage which is existing. It is the unwanted voltage which is existing. So they're telling if a voltage supply, if there is a change in VCC, there will be some changes that is going to happen with respect to input offset voltage, even though other power supply is constant. VE is also given to some power supply. It might be minus 10 volt. This might be plus 10 volt. So minus 10 volt is constant, but this is fluctuating. This is plus, it is coming to 11 or 9 or 8, 12, like that it is fluctuating. Because of that fluctuation, there is some unwanted signals that are going to be added up, and because of that, there is some change in the offset voltage. So you can define it as it is the ratio of change in the input offset voltage to the change in the power supply voltage, keeping other power supply constant. So these are the two formulas which we are having. This is with respect to VCC, change in VCC. This is with respect to change in VEE. Okay, this is power supply rejection ratio, and it is said to be 0. 0 indicates that even though this plus VCC or minus VE are going to have some fluctuation, they're telling that no signal is getting added up at the input. So there is no variation at the input. So it is not going to have any effect over the input signal or the voltage which is at the input terminals. But practically, it will not be 0. It will be having 30 microvolt per volt. If 1 volt is going to change either in plus VCC or minus VE, 30 microvolt will change in the input level. So that's what about the power supply rejection ratio. See, the same thing we are again going to discuss in practical characteristics. Same definitions, but only in practical characteristics we are going to tell the actual values. See, what was the voltage gain there? What is the voltage gain in ideal characteristics?
0.
0.
Infinite.
Infinite, right? Here, actually, it is just 2 into 10 to the power of 5. 2 lakh. This is the gain which we can obtain from the op amp. But this 2 lakh is also too high. So we are going to reduce it to our level, whatever requirement we are having. To that level, we are going to reduce this voltage gain. And what about the input impedance there?
Infinite.
Infinite. But here it will be 1 mega ohm or nearly 2 mega ohm. And even by connecting some external resistance, you can make it as 100 mega ohm. And one thing you should remember, always for a good amplifier, input impedance should be maximum, output impedance should be minimum. Why? Because if you are telling input impedance is maximum, means it is going to take less current. By taking less current, it is going to give more current at the output. So when you are telling output impedance is low, that indicates there is more current which is flowing. So our amplifier is taking less current and it is going to give more current. So obviously it is a good amplifier. Suppose if it is reverse, input impedance is very low, output impedance is very high. What happens? It takes more current but gives less current. Do you call it as an amplifier? The one which is taking more and giving out less, do you call it as an amplifier?
No, sir.
No, right? So that becomes an attenuator. Attenuator is a device which is going to reduce the strength of the signal. So amplifier means always input impedance should be maximum, output impedance should be minimum. And coming to the output impedance, so it is usually 100 ohm, and you can even reduce it to 75 ohm by using some feedback resistance which is connected between the input and output. Coming to the bandwidth. So bandwidth, as we know, it is a range of frequency over which output is maximum. So it was told to be infinite, but practically it will be 1 to 100 megahertz. This is the maximum range. Typically, it is 1 megahertz. Typically, we consider 1 megahertz, but if you can tune it till 100 megahertz also, it is not infinity. And coming to the common mode rejection ratio, ideally it was infinite, but practically it is 90 dB. Its value is 90 dB. Coming to the Slew rate, it is the rate of change of output with respect to change in the input. So ideally it was infinite. That means output is going to instantly change with respect to input, but practically it is not possible. So practically for 0.5 volt change, it needs 1 microsecond. This is the practical value. Then is we are having power supply rejection ratio. There it was 0, but here it is 30 microvolt per volt. So this is the these are the practical values. So they'll ask you write the practical characteristics, then define each of them and write the values. All these values you should remember. Even there is one more table where we need to even remember the current values, all those things. So that we will be doing in the next class. So all
30
this stuff.
microvolt for what, sir?
What?
PSRR. Can you explain?
Yeah,
30
it is
micro.
30 microvolt per volt. Per volt change in plus VCC or minus VEE, there will be 30 microvolt change in the input. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So after these are all the questions that can be asked. They can ask you as list the characteristics of an op-amp, or they can even ask define the following by writing their practical values. Then each of them you need to define and write the practical values. So in by tomorrow in the next class we can finish off all this definitions, all those things, and then we'll start with the application. There are 8 applications totally. Among the 8 applications, 2 applications are 100% you'll be getting. Applications in the sense in that you're having derivations and explanation. So in that you are having among 8, 6 derivations you are having. Among that 6 derivation, 2 derivations or 1 derivation, or usually 2 derivations is 100% for exam. If you study that, 8 marks is in your hand. 8 plus 8 will be in your hand. And the problems whatever we are going to solve in this particular chapter are purely based on these parameters and on the applications what we are going to discuss. So if you are perfect with the applications, that is derivations and all, then you can easily solve the problem. If you don't know the derivations, then you cannot solve any problems. Okay, so just study this and come for the tomorrow's class. So we'll continue in the tomorrow's class.